Welcome to this new automotive news video for Thursday, June 11, 2026. On the agenda today, and it's quite a surprise, the French government is reportedly about to reduce or even completely eliminate certain automotive taxes, such as the penalty tax. Fiat announces the end of one of its last affordable family models. Ford is preparing to bring back small sports cars for Europe. And just when everyone thought it was dead, diesel has just set a new world record. I hope the topics I've chosen for you will interest you. If that's the case, I'm counting on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for the next videos, boosting this one if the option appears for you, and of course by leaving a comment where you share your opinion on today's news. A chapter is closing at Fiat after more than 10 years on the market. One of the last affordable family cars in the European market is going to disappear, the Tipo. It has been removed from the Fiat configurator so you can no longer place an order. For a new Fiat Tipo, you'll now have to settle for the few new units that are still in stock at Fiat. It's a shame because the Tipo was really one of the last affordable family cars on the European market. It's a simple car without too many useless gadgets. Previously, it was offered as a sedan, 5-door hatchback, or station wagon, and was among the last European station wagons. Over the years, the lineup had evolved with the arrival of new gasoline engines, new diesel engines, and even hybrid versions. But for the past few months, it could only be ordered with a single engine, the famous four-cylinder. The 131-horsepower 1.6 multi-jet diesel, which was well known for its fuel efficiency and reliability. It was available starting at 16,000 euros, and unfortunately, the Tipo is leaving the scene for good. And unfortunately, behind this disappearance, it may be a sign of a broader trend. The gradual disappearance of family compacts and affordable sedans in favor of vehicles that are always bigger, heavier, and often more expensive. It's a bit sad that Fiat doesn't plan to replace it. Officially, the next Fiat model to be sold by Fiat in the compact category will be the Grizzly SUV, which most likely won't offer diesel engines anymore and will probably also be much more expensive. What hastened the end of the Tipo is European automotive taxation, which makes buying a combustion engine vehicle particularly complicated and especially expensive. And that's bad luck for Fiat because on the very day they announced this, we learned that in France, for example, the government is about to revolutionize automotive taxation. While French drivers have seen taxes pile up year after year, a debate that seemed impossible just a few months ago is now open at the highest levels of government. This Thursday, the Minister of Industry, Sébastien Martin, brought together all the players in the automotive sector to try to answer a question that has become central. Is automotive taxation suffocating the market? Let me know what you think in the comments. But it's true that the penalty, for example, whether it's on CO2 or on the weight of the cars, can currently add up to 80,000 euros in extra taxes on the purchase of a vehicle that's already very expensive. Let's remember that the price of a new car in France in 2026 is around 34,000 euros. Buying a car is already expensive, but adding tens of thousands of euros in taxes makes people stop buying them. For example, since the beginning of 2026, new car sales have continued to decline. They have dropped by 0.6% compared to last year over the same period. And most importantly, they remain 31% lower, which is huge, than the sales levels observed in 2019 before COVID. Faced with this complex situation, the government is now considering a thorough review of certain car taxes. As early as January, Sébastien Martin had stated that he was ready to completely overhaul the current penalty system if car manufacturers could prove that the environmental penalty, whether based on CO2 or weight, played an important role in the slowdown of sales. Several specialized consulting firms have been commissioned to carry out a detailed study, the results of which are not yet publicly available. But it is known that following these studies, even though the results are only partial, there are already two solutions being considered. The first would be to raise the current penalty thresholds to spare the so-called popular small cars. In short, to ensure that small, inexpensive cars, which are often only used for getting around and have nothing expensive or sporty about them, are exempt from the penalty. So we'll see how it goes, but it really feels like a complicated mess because technically, it means we're heading toward a case-by-case system, which means that each model with each trim level will probably have to go before some kind of Automotive commission, which will decide whether the car is really just for getting around or if it's a slightly higher-end, almost sporty model. So be careful, that's really just pure speculation, but it's possible that it could happen. And the second recommendation is a tax simplification for businesses, because it's a nightmare. Automotive taxation for businesses is even worse than it is for individuals. Since businesses have bought about half of the cars sold in France recently, it's become too complicated to manage with too many taxes and rules. The government is considering merging these taxes into one system, making it clearer for businesses, and to allow businesses to recover VAT on company cars, which is currently not possible, and which should help boost sales a little. Car manufacturers haven't commented on these potential measures because they fear a new wave of massive wait-and-see behavior. That is to say, they are very afraid that French businesses, but also French individuals, will wait even longer before buying a new car. If they hear that in a few months, it's quite possible that for the same model, they won't have to pay the same taxes. Most likely, in the long term, it could be a good solution. The problem is the short and medium term, for manufacturers who are already under maximum pressure. So these measures are not fully supported by the manufacturers, and they are obviously not at all supported by environmental organizations who believe that too significant a tax reform could slow down the transition to electric cars. There's only one point where everyone seems to agree, and that's the return of the conversion bonus, which would be intended to support the purchase of electric cars, whether new or used. But it's a bit of a vicious circle, since so far the conversion bonus was funded by money from the penalty. It's difficult to see how the penalty could be reduced while also reallocating the budget to encourage the French to switch from old combustion cars to electric ones. One thing is certain. After years of continuously tightening automotive taxes, the mere fact that the government is now considering reopening the debate is already seen by part of the automotive sector as an important signal. I still want to say that it's easy to start the debate at the end of 2026 when we know there's a very strong chance that the current government simply won't exist in a few months. It's easy to promise things when you know you won't have to follow through. Meanwhile, the automotive market faces a major paradox. Efforts are focused on accelerating the shift to electric vehicles. On the other hand, a technology that many have declared doomed, diesel, continues to break records. Indeed, a few days ago, a German YouTuber achieved something remarkable with an old Volkswagen Passat wagon, a car from the early 2000s, almost 30 years old. And yet with it, he managed to travel more than 2,300 kilometers on a single tank of fuel. The car was almost completely original, with the famous 1.9 TDI four-cylinder diesel engine known for its reliability and also for its fuel efficiency. That's what interests us here. The vehicle did receive a few exterior modifications aimed at reducing aerodynamic drag, including the installation of solid wheels to reduce aerodynamic turbulence, the use of low rolling resistance tires, and the removal of the roof bars. With its original 72-liter tank and an average consumption of 3 liters per 100 kilometers, it was indeed able to travel 2,300 kilometers in a single trip. And in real conditions, that's probably even more impressive than another record that was set, this time with a Skoda that traveled 2,800 kilometers on a single tank of fuel. But that record was achieved under special conditions with a much more modern car and also with a car that was much more heavily modified than this simple Passat. When you see this, you can't help but think it's a shame that they didn't keep working on diesel engines. Who knows, maybe if manufacturers had been able to allocate even just 20% of the budget given to electric cars, they could have designed a new line of diesel engines that consumed even less and didn't require sacrificing the European automotive sector in favor of the Chinese industry. It just goes to show that even when a technology seems doomed on paper, it hasn't necessarily had its last word on the road. Not everyone wants to get 3 liters per 100 kilometers. Some just want to enjoy driving again. And Ford is planning something interesting for them. Over time, enthusiasts have watched the cars that excited them vanish one after another. Sporty compacts, small GTIs, and affordable fun models have disappeared from manufacturers' catalogs. Ford was one of the first brands to start this trend, as it removed almost all of its sporty models in Europe. The Fiesta ST, Focus ST, and even the RS have disappeared. All that's left in the catalog is the Puma ST, which isn't particularly sporty since it's an SUV, and the Mustang, which isn't exactly cheap. Except now, Ford wants to reverse course and announces that in the European market, Ford will soon relaunch small sporty cars like the GTI. This will happen with the arrival of the new Fiesta ST. So I'll tell you right away, here we're talking about cars that are GTI in name only, because we're probably talking about fully electric cars. The Fiesta ST will be based on the Fiesta, which itself is based on the electric Renault 5. Let me tell you, the new Fiesta ST will basically be a rebadged 1990 Alpine. Ford wants to equip it with 2 electric motors, give it all-wheel drive, and go up against the new electric Polo or 208 GTI. It won't be the only one, since Ford has already confirmed that other models will have sporty versions, especially the replacement for the current Puma, which will also be based on Renault engineering, as it will simply use the platform and engine from the electric Renault 4. It's good and nice to want to do it, and it's a great message for car enthusiasts. Now, the big question is whether Ford will manage to find people who want to buy these electric GTIs. For now, when we look at the reactions to the new 208 GTI or the electric Polo GTI, we can't say it's a sure thing. Anyway, that's it for today's news. I hope you found the video interesting. If that's the case, as usual, I'm counting on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for the next videos, and of course, possibly supporting the channel by clicking the join button below. I'll see you tomorrow for the next one. Bye.